There's a quiet thief that steals from millions of people over 50. It doesn't take money, but it robs us of something far more precious, our freedom to move without pain. One day you're tying your shoes, the next you're wincing at the simple act of climbing stairs. Arthritis is often seen as an inevitable part of aging. But what if I told you that the foods you place in your grocery cart could either fuel that pain or help free you from it? Imagine a kitchen that becomes your pharmacy, where each meal quietly repairs instead of destroys. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Wellness Blueprint Over 50. Today we're going to walk together down the grocery aisles, not with a shopping list of restrictions, but with a blueprint for hope, for strength, and for reclaiming the joy of movement at any age. When I sit with my patients in the clinic, many of them lean in with the same quiet question: Dr. Brian, is there really anything I can eat that helps with this pain? And the answer, which often surprises them, is yes, because inflammation is like a small fire burning inside the joints, and the foods we choose can either fan the flames or cool them down. Think of salmon or sardines as fire extinguishers. The omega-3 oils in these fish flow through your bloodstream like little peacekeepers, calming the angry chemicals that cause swelling and stiffness. In fact, a study published in Annals of the Rheumatic Diseases found that people who ate fatty fish twice a week reported less joint tenderness than those who didn't. That's real science meeting the dinner table. I remember a gentleman named Walter, a retired carpenter in his early 70s. He'd spent a lifetime working with his hands, and arthritis had curled his fingers into painful knots. But when he began adding grilled salmon to his meals and snacking on a handful of walnuts each afternoon, something remarkable happened. Within months, he told me, "Doc, I can hold a coffee mug again without wincing." His pain hadn't disappeared, but the edges of it had softened. It's not only fish and nuts. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, which acts a little like ibuprofen, quietly reducing the same pathways of pain. Only it's coming from your salad dressing rather than a pill bottle. A drizzle of olive oil on roasted vegetables doesn't just add flavor, it adds a dose of natural medicine. Then there are the bright jewels of the produce aisle: blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. Their deep colors come from anthocyanins, pigments that shield your joints from the microscopic rust of free radicals. It's like polishing the hinges of a squeaky door so it swings smoothly again. Patients who added berries to their breakfasts often tell me their morning stiffness doesn't last as long. And don't overlook the humble bell pepper or the juicy orange. Vitamin C is essential for collagen, the cushion between our bones, and it protects the very scaffolding of our joints. A cup of tea, green tea especially, adds another layer of defense. Inside its leaves are polyphenols, like EGCG, which slow the march of inflammation the way brakes slow a car rolling downhill. So when you picture your plate, imagine it as a canvas: rich greens, vibrant reds, deep blues. Each color isn't just beauty, it's medicine. Every bite, every sip is a gentle vote for healing, for resilience, for the possibility of moving through life with less pain and more freedom. There's a rhythm to the way our bodies use fuel, and when that rhythm is smooth, joints feel supported. But when it's disrupted, when blood sugar spikes and crashes, it's as though the orchestra inside us goes off key. Refined grains like white bread or pastries act like noisy cymbals, startling the system, spiking blood sugar, and stirring inflammation. Whole grains, on the other hand, are like a steady drumbeat: calm, balanced, supportive. Take oats, for instance. When eaten in the morning, they release energy slowly, sparing your joints from sudden waves of inflammation that come with sugary breakfasts. Brown rice, quinoa, and barley all carry their natural fiber intact. Fiber is more than just roughage. It's a message to the immune system, telling it to lower the alarm bells. Studies have shown that diets rich in whole grains reduce levels of C-reactive protein, a marker that rises when the body's inflamed. Imagine those protein levels as warning sirens. Whole grains gently dim the sound. I once worked with Maria, a grandmother in her late 60s who had lived with knee arthritis for more than a decade. She loved cooking for her family, but she admitted her table was often filled with white rolls and pasta. We shifted her meals toward quinoa salads tossed with vegetables, lentil soup simmered in olive oil, and hearty bean stews. Within 6 months, Maria had shed 10 pounds without dieting, just from the natural fullness of fiber-rich foods. More importantly, her knees felt lighter. "I can walk to the park with my grandkids now without stopping to catch my breath," she said. Beans and legumes are true unsung heroes in this story. Lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans, they're little nutritional powerhouses. They bring protein to maintain the muscles that cradle our joints and magnesium to relax stiff tissues. They're low in fat, high in satiety, and deeply satisfying in stews or sprinkled on salads. Magnesium, in particular, acts like oil in an engine, easing friction where bones meet. Science supports what patients like Maria experience. Research published in the journal Nutrition Reviews highlights how legumes lower inflammatory markers and support cardiovascular health. A bonus, since a strong heart fuels strong movement. And there's another layer. By helping us manage weight, whole grains and beans take pressure off the joints. Every extra pound on the scale adds nearly 4 pounds of pressure on the knees. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack all day and then setting it down. That relief is what even small weight loss can bring to sore joints. So when you stand in the grocery aisle facing the choice between white rice and brown, or between a can of beans and a box of processed noodles, remember, one choice makes the fire burn brighter, the other begins to calm it. Step by step, bite by bite, you build a foundation of steadiness, a floor strong enough to carry you into the next decade with grace. If whole grains and beans are the sturdy foundation of the house, then herbs and spices are the windows that let in sunlight. They don't just make food taste better, they transform ordinary meals into medicine. Over the years, I've seen patients who were skeptical that something as small as a pinch of spice could change their pain. Yet the science and their experiences tell us it truly can. Let's begin with ginger. Slice into its golden root, and you release compounds called gingerols, nature's own anti-inflammatory agents. When a patient stirs fresh ginger into tea or cooks it into a stir-fry, they often describe a subtle easing of stiffness, like oil loosening a rusty hinge. In one clinical study, ginger supplementation reduced knee pain in people with osteoarthritis. But it isn't just the lab results I lean on. It's the memory of people like Harold, a retired mail carrier who came to me frustrated with daily knee aches. I suggested he brew ginger tea each morning instead of his usual black coffee. A month later, he walked into my office with a smile saying, "Doc, I didn't need my cane for church last Sunday." Then there is garlic, humble but mighty. Inside its pungent cloves are sulfur compounds that reduce inflammation and strengthen the immune system. When you crush or chop garlic, those compounds activate like tiny warriors, calming the storms inside sore joints. Add it to soups, saute it with vegetables, or roast it whole until sweet. It becomes not just flavor, but a gentle therapy. Turmeric deserves its place as the golden spice of healing. Inside this bright yellow powder lies curcumin, a compound studied extensively for its role in reducing joint pain. Imagine curcumin as a locksmith, quietly turning the tumblers that unlock stiff joints. Clinical trials have shown its potential to rival non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, but without the side effects that often worry my patients. Adding a teaspoon of turmeric to a pot of soup or blending it into a smoothie isn't a cure, but it's a daily nudge toward relief. Pair it with black pepper, which enhances absorption, and its effects grow stronger. Cinnamon, cloves, rosemary, each carries antioxidants that sweep through the body like janitors, clearing away harmful free radicals that worsen inflammation. These aren't exotic, inaccessible ingredients. They're sitting on the spice rack of your local grocery store, waiting to be used not sparingly, but intentionally. I often remind my patients, herbs and spices are proof that medicine doesn't always come in a bottle. They're reminders that healing can be fragrant, colorful, and deeply enjoyable. Cooking with them isn't a chore, it's a ritual of self-care, a daily act of choosing to nourish not just the body but the spirit. So when you season your next meal, pause for a moment. Each sprinkle, each stir is more than flavor. It's an offering of relief, a message to your joints that you're giving them the tools to heal. Now, just as there are foods that soothe inflammation, There are others that secretly stoke it, whispering to the flames in ways many people don't realize. One of the hardest conversations I have with patients is about letting go, even just partly, of the foods that feel like old friends. That bag of chips with its satisfying crunch, the frosted pastry with morning coffee, or the sizzling bacon at Sunday brunch. These aren't just treats, they're memories. Yet for the body already battling arthritis, they can act like tiny sparks thrown onto a dry field. Processed foods, especially those filled with trans fats and additives, are some of the worst culprits. They're designed to be convenient and addictive, but they trigger the immune system into overdrive. Imagine soldiers rushing to the wrong battlefield. Chaos spreads, inflammation deepens, joints ache. When patients trade pre-packaged dinners for fresh meals, they often notice the change first in how they wake up. Less stiffness, fewer groans when standing, a body that feels lighter from the inside out. Refined carbohydrates like white bread, pastries, and sugary cereals are another hidden villain. They cause rapid spikes in blood sugar, which leads to a cascade of inflammatory signals in the body. Think of it as a roller coaster. Every sharp climb is followed by a crash, and your joints feel the turbulence. Choosing whole grains steadies the ride, but continuing on refined carbs leaves the track shaky and unpredictable. Sugary drinks, sodas, sweetened teas, energy drinks carry their own silent weight. They not only feed inflammation, but also contribute to weight gain. And here's the truth. Every single pound of excess weight puts nearly 4 pounds of additional pressure on your knees. I once cared for a woman named Evelyn in her early 60s who loved her daily cola. Her knees had begun to swell, and she struggled with even short walks. We worked gently, step by step, replacing her soda with sparkling water flavored with lemon. Within weeks, she noticed that she could rise from her chair more easily. It wasn't just about the sugar, it was about releasing her body from an unnecessary burden. Then there's red meat and processed meats like sausages and deli slices. These contain high levels of saturated fats that act like fuel for inflammation. It doesn't mean you can never enjoy a holiday roast, but moderation is crucial. Replacing even a few servings each week with fish, poultry, or plant proteins shifts the balance toward healing. Making these changes isn't about deprivation, it's about trade-offs, swapping the spark for the extinguisher, choosing foods that serve your future instead of stealing from it. Each choice is a vote, not for perfection, but for progress. And progress, over time, means joints that carry you not just through today, but into the next season of life with greater strength. Even with the most thoughtful diet, sometimes our bodies need an extra hand. That's where supplements and functional foods come in, not as magic bullets, but as quiet helpers that fill in the gaps. When I sit with patients, I remind them these are not shortcuts, but companions on the journey toward healing. Vitamin D is one of the most important allies. Many older adults are deficient, partly because we spend less time in the sun and our skin becomes less efficient at producing it. Yet vitamin D is like a foreman at a construction site, directing calcium where it needs to go to strengthen bones and maintain cartilage. Without it, the scaffolding weakens. I recall treating Henry, a widower in his 70s who struggled with morning stiffness. A simple blood test revealed low vitamin D. Once we corrected it with supplements and fortified foods, his mobility improved, and he told me he could finally return to tending his garden. Another pair often discussed in the arthritis world is glucosamine and chondroitin. These compounds are part of the natural cushioning in our joints. Some studies show mixed results, but many of my patients report relief, especially in the knees. I describe them as adding a little padding back to a worn-out chair, maybe not restoring it to brand new, but making it comfortable enough to sit again. Fish oil supplements deserve a place in the conversation, particularly for those who don't enjoy eating fish regularly. They provide concentrated omega-3 fatty acids, the same peacekeepers found in salmon and sardines. A review in the Journal of Clinical Rheumatology noted reduced joint pain and stiffness among patients who supplemented consistently. The key here is patience. It takes weeks to feel the difference, but for many that difference is real. Then there are functional foods like probiotics and fermented options, yogurt, kefir, kimchi. At first glance, they may not seem connected to arthritis, But gut health and inflammation are deeply intertwined. A balanced gut sends calming signals to the immune system, reducing the misfires that worsen joint pain. One of my patients, Linda, began incorporating kefir into her breakfast routine. Within months, not only was her digestion smoother, but she described her flare-ups as quieter, less bossy. That's the subtle power of a healthier microbiome. Of course, supplements aren't a one-size-fits-all answer. They must be chosen with care, ideally under the guidance of a healthcare provider, to ensure safety and effectiveness. But when thoughtfully added, they act like reinforcements arriving to strengthen a weary army, helping the body push back against inflammation and reclaim balance. So as you walk through the grocery store or stand in the pharmacy aisle, remember, food is the foundation, but supplements and functional foods can be valuable tools in your kit. They're the supportive handrail on the staircase, not carrying you up, but giving you steadiness as you climb toward health. We've journeyed through the grocery aisles together, pausing at the foods that soothe and steering clear of those that harm. We've seen how fish and berries, grains and beans, spices and supplements can become allies in calming inflammation and easing arthritis pain. But more than just lists of foods, this is really about reclaiming power, choosing meals that carry you toward freedom, not limitation. Remember, every plate is a chance to tell your body, I care, I'm listening, I'm giving you what you need. Healing is not about perfection, it's about consistency, kindness, and hope.